Hello dears, welcome to season 2 of the podcast. This season will be dedicated to manga, as I have told you before. And the first one is CardCaptor Sakura, or CCS. If you're feeling lazy, don't want to write down the whole thing. I said original, but it's just CardCaptor Sakura, because the new one is Sakura Clear Card. This manga was originally published in 1996 and it ran until 2000. It had 12 volumes, all of which were not in the anime completely. The anime aired in 1998 and ran until 2000 with 70 episodes. It's old compared to other manga and anime, and you can tell by the animation and the manga's art. Obviously completely different than what we see now and how click art is. But back in the day and recently, if you rewatch the whole thing, we will watch eagerly and wait for the new episodes every week. Because who didn't want to have magical cards that could create strong winds or a deadly fog or flowers raining down on everyone or turn into anything into a cake. It was so fun to watch CardCaptor Sakura. But even when it's shoujo, dedicated to or targeting young adult females, unlike the counterpart shonen, which is for young adult or younger males. The anime, it did have that. It was mellow or softer compared to the notions and the themes in the manga. Because even when Sakura was almost teenager, because she was not even 12, it had all the elements that could make you rethink the whole genre. Because I have to talk about it and say it. The relationship between one of her classmates and a teacher was there, and in the anime it was glossed over, but in the manga it's quite clear and they made no bones about hiding or anything. But it was not a main thing, so we really didn't care. It was like, oh, it's there. And eventually, when she grows up, this is Rika, one of Sakura's friends. When she grows up, she's gonna marry this guy, who I'm gonna say 20 something, but he was more like 30. But it was not the only age gap relationship here, because there was also Sakura's parents and Nadeshiko, Sakura's mom. Sakura, she was 16, I think, when she married her dad, who was a professor, or TA or something like that. And of course, her family was against it, and they make mention of it, and they do tell the story more. Especially with the grandfather, because he was really upset about it. And also, what is her name? Sakura's friend. Oh my god, I just forgot her name completely. Tomoyo. Daidoji Tomoyo. Sakura's friend. Her mother was the cousin of Nadeshiko, and she also had like a little crush on her. And whoever says she didn't is lying, because it was pretty clear. Just as Tomoyo was in love with Sakura the whole time. And this was not the only age gap relationship, because Mitsuki Kaho sensei, who was a teacher at Sakura school for a while, she was also older. I don't think they ever said exactly her age, but Sakura's brother was in love with her when he was, I don't know, this was probably 2 years before. Maybe he was 14, 15. And she was already 18, I guess. I cannot say for sure because they were not very specific about their ages. But it was all there. And then Toya, Sakura's brother, he like who he likes, and of course he's fell in love with Yue, with Yukito, I mean. And this is spoiler everywhere, so I'm sorry if I did not specify that it would be spoilers before. Just assume that everyone watched Sakura and everyone read the manga. And yeah, I mean, it's so great. It has so many elements other than the claw cards and the magic and the adventures that Sakura goes through. After Kero is awakened, he guides her and tells her that she's gonna be the new claw card owner and everything. And I mean, there's a reason why Sakura has all of this. And this is not shown on the anime, it's on the manga. It's because she's, oh my god, this is a major spoiler in this thing, but she's descendant of Chloride in some weird way, which is that Sakura's dad is actually a recognition of Claw, and more like, I don't know, half of him is Ariel, who was also a recognition of Claw. And there are so many little details on the manga that after you finish watching the anime and you go and read the manga, you are surprised by the amount of things that were left out, and that make everything make more sense than it did before. It blows your mind to read the manga. Okay, so I have said everything about basically the end of the book, of the manga, sorry, I'm thinking about books, of the manga, and I didn't even mention Shaoran because, I mean, I was too engrossed in all the relationships there are in the manga. But of course there is Lee Shaoran, who comes from Hong Kong to also capture the cards. But he doesn't know that Glory, of course, already had Sakura pinned down as the one who would inherit all claw cards. This is what he did. When he knew that he was gonna die, he saw the future because he could, part of the future, and he split his soul, his life, whatever you want to call it, and two reincarnations, as I already mentioned, Ariel and Sakura's dad. And this was how it happened in the manga. But in the anime, Fujitaka, sorry, Sakura's dad, he doesn't know, and he would not know anything of this. In the anime they didn't mention any of the splitting of the soul or anything. They just said that Ariel was the reincarnation of Chloe, and that was it. They left it at that. And I guess that's why the anime ran. I mean, it had a lot of stuff to go up to 70 episodes, but at the same time, there were some episodes that were filler and some cards that they just put there. They were not on the manga, as far as I know. And yeah, it goes all the way from Sakura finding the cards in her basement, Chaoran arriving, Sakura winning the test against Chaoran when Yue tests her to see if she's worth it of having all Chloe cards and being their owner. And after that is when Ariel arrives to let's say make, force, whatever, Sakura to make the cards her own and change them, and that's how the rest of the manga goes. So yeah, I think I'll leave it up to here. I have talked enough about how great this manga is, and so is the anime. But if you only watched the anime in the past and were thinking that it would be the same to read the manga, it's not. And I have said some spoilers, but it's not enough as to say, oh, I'm not gonna read the manga because I already know what happens. No. You will definitely be into it from the start, and it's really great to see all these side stories and the side characters, because even if it's about Sakura, mere 10-year-old, almost like a teenager but not quite, obviously, and then the many hardships that she goes through trying to collect the cards and everything that she does. Despite all of that, the side characters is what make this manga so great, and the stories there, and it's what you want to know more about. So I definitely recommend reading it. I have loved it since the beginning. It took me quite a few years to read it after I watched the manga a bunch of times, but once I did, my eyes were open and it was heart-throbbing. Everything that you can imagine, like in a fantasy adventure type of manga, which is fresh and young as well, and it's all there, and it's great to read it. Also, there is Clamp, which is the manga company authors who own this series, the manga artist group Clamp. They also have Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles and Ex-Holic. Tsubasa came after Sakura, and they wanted to create a work they had previous characters or the art from other manga, so Tsubasa was born. And what I wanted to point out is that it's also amazing, and the story is not the same, and because following Princess Sakura Hime around with Shaoran and other characters, which I'm pretty sure are from Exholic, which I haven't watched or read, but I know they're connected. And the stories are not connected, but the art and the characters from their other works, Sakura and Exholic, come together in Tsubasa, and it's a freaking amazing thing that it really blows the mind. The anime is awesome, and I recently ordered the manga because I want to read it to see how alike it is, and the music and the anime is out of the world. And yeah, I just wanted to point out that this all relates and they are all great to watch. But I'm not gonna talk about the story of Tsubasa or Exholic on this one because it's about Sakura. But I really wanted to mention that. And now, yes, I am definitely done. And that's it. Thank you for listening, coming back for season 2. And if you're new to the podcast, you can check out season 1, which is dedicated to some cool books that I have read. And yeah, you can go to EachPage.org and check out my review of CardCaptor Sakura original manga. I don't have spoilers on that blog post, but I do have an extra one about Rika and Dera Sensei, which does have spoilers about the manga, and you can also read it on the blog. That's all for this one. Thank you, dears, for coming back, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you on the next one. Welcome, dearies. This is episode 2 of season 2 of the podcast. It will be dedicated to Junjou Romantica, pure romance, or literal translation, pure hearted romantica. You might also see some English stylization of it as Junjou without the U. So it's up to you how you decide to look it up, but you'll find the same info of the manga and anime either way. That's a lot on the title. Anyway, we are here because of the love of yaoi. If you do not like BL, boy love, anime, manga, drama, romance, I suggest that you check out some of my other podcast episodes instead. That said, there will be spoilers here if you haven't read the manga or watched the anime ever. I assume you kept on listening to this episode because you like to know more about Junjou Romantica, or you just want to know where I stand. Well, you must surely know that I love it. After you get over what happens in the first chapter, that is, you really just see the romance and the story in the manga. Junjou stars Takahashi Misaki and Usami Akihiko, or Usagi-san, as known by Misaki because his Nichan called him Usagi and he's stuck with Misaki. So we will call him Usagi or Akihiko, and let's begin. Junjou Romantica follows mostly Akihiko and Misaki. Usagi is the heir to the Usami company, youngest recipient of the Naomori Award, that is an award in Japan for, I think, international authors or something like that. And he's number 1 author of Marukawa Publishing, which is mostly featured in Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi, which is the other manga by this author, by Nakamura Sensei. I should have said the name of the author before, but that is the name of the author of this manga. Akihiko is super smart, and he's friends with Takahiro, that is Misaki's older brother, who raised him. And Takahiro asked Akihiko to please tutor Misaki so he can get into university, because Misaki doesn't have the best grades. And so he does. And the first time that Misaki goes to the super luxurious apartment building where Usagi lives, he finds another type of it's a manga in the manga, and Misaki reads some of it, and it's a BL that has the names of Akihiko and Takahiro. So of course Misaki flees into a rage and goes into Usagi's room and tells him that how dare he to put his brother's name on this. Bear in mind that he didn't have to read this, and that was just some books and some manuscripts that Usagi had left for his editor manager there, and Misaki went to, just nosing around. Of course, that leads to the main event, and Misaki tells Usagi that as long as it's any man, he's gonna be fine with it. So Akihiko directs his attention to Misaki in that moment, and Usagi touches Misaki and fills him up and kisses him, and Misaki at first refuses and everything, and then suddenly he's thinking that it feels good. Sorry, I did warn that this was spoiler and 18+. Anyways, after this little incident between the two, they really think that they don't like each other or anything, but for Takahiro's sake, they will try to get along and get it over with. This is how their relationship started, and for a few months they had this relationship of tutor and student, and Usagi does help Misaki get into university. But after that, Misaki began living with Usagi because Takahiro got married and moved to Osaka. And when Misaki started university, he slowly, as living with Usagi, he began accepting his feelings for him, and mostly because of the existence of Usagi, he fell for Misaki after Misaki was enraged with his brother because he was getting married and he didn't know about Usagi's feeling. It was a whole thing of, this innocence of Misaki and the pure heart of Akihiko. It's a combination of the two. This is why it's the Junjou Romantica, the pure heart romance. And they live together all this time, and Usagi is always affectionate and lovey-dovey with Misaki, even though Misaki tries to keep a wall between them. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep this thing G-rated as much as possible, but I know it won't be when I go on to the side stories, especially the one about Hiroki. Junjou Romantica is not just one story. It has another two main relationships in it. Spoilers everywhere here. The other one is Junjou Egoist. which is about Kamiyo Hiroki, a childhood friend of Akihiko, and Kusama Nowaki. These two met at a park while Hiroki was crying because Akihiko broke his heart after they were together. And this was years before Junjou Romantica started, and they were still young. And Hiroki and Nowaki started a relationship, and this is the longest relationship in the manga. This was since Hiroki was, or Hiro-san as Nowaki calls him, since he was in college, he was with Nowaki. After they had been dating Nowaki and Hiro-san for a while, Nowaki goes to the US because he was in college. This is after some years. It all goes by a little quickly in the manga. And Hiro just doesn't know that he was gonna go there, but he sort of did because Nowaki did tell him, but Hiro-san just forgot. It was all a big misunderstanding. After he comes back, Nowaki and Hiro, like, they have a better relationship. And I mean, I like this one better of the three here in Junjou Romantica, because Junjou egoist or self-centered love, they have other problems. They're more relationship and romance-like, and they don't have the feelings for each other. I mean, Hiro-san is really, let's say, he's a little cold, but that's just his personality. But he doesn't hide the fact that he likes Nowaki and that he loves him and wants to be with him. And I mean, it's different from Junjou Romantica because Misaki it gets on my nerves, always denying his feelings, which is sort of the point of him eventually accepting it. I mean, the manga is over 70 chapters by now, and I yet to read the finale of it. I don't even know if it's out, but it's been going on for so many years and there are so many things from it that you just cannot help but talk about it since the first chapters and go by little. They have so many things, and there have been so many events in the manga that it just makes you could be here for hours and we could be talking about it for ages with everything that has happened in it. As for Hiro and Nowaki, they also had a jealous misunderstanding because of Miyagi-Jo, who is the teacher, let's say, sort of boss of Hiroki University when he started teaching there. This is years after that he started dating Nowaki. But when Nowaki came back from the US, they had a misunderstanding because of Miyagi. And he is the main character of the other side story of Junjou Romantica, Junjou Terrorist. I almost never talk much about Junjou Terrorist, which stars Miyagi, and Takatsuki Shinobu, because these two really get on my nerves a little bit. And I don't like Shinobu that much. He's an 18-year-old who was in love with Miyagi for ages, since he married his sister. Anyways, Miyagi is 35 and Shinobu is 18. All of the relationships in Junjou Romantica are age gaps, so it really doesn't matter. It's not about that, about their 17 years difference here. It's about Shinobu, who is one annoying kid. And after he finds out that Miyagi divorced his sister, he came back to the country and confessed to Miyagi and told her that he's in love with him and everything. When Miyagi didn't immediately, turn around and told her, yes, I like you too, because why would he? Shinobu just kept being there. I mean, this mangaka really likes the insistence of people, and that's great. And this romance started like that. Shinobu stood to his feelings, and after I don't know how long, Miyagi eventually fell for him, and then they started living together as well. All of these 3 side stories are great in the manga, and they have a lot of details and a lot of main scenes that you don't exactly get to see on Junjou Romantica, the anime, because they, for some reason, mellow out some of the interactions in it. And yes, by interactions, I mean the relationships and intimate relationships they all had. So in the anime, I was gonna do a sort of comparison between the two, manga and anime of Junjou Romantica, but they're pretty similar. The main difference is, as I was saying, how they portray the interactions between the couples. In the anime, they usually just leave it to your imagination, basically, and the manga does not. So if you haven't read the manga, you will see some heavy scenes in there. Be prepared for it. I used to like the anime better. Actually, I watched the anime ages ago when it came out, and then I read the manga. It usually happened years ago, because these are so popular, the anime, that you watch all of them. I mean, yaoi. And Sekai-Ichi and this one, Junjou Romantica, are really good to watch. But after I read the manga, I became a fan of the manga, because it held a lot more, not just information, but a lot more story, and you could easily follow it and read chapter after chapter without getting sick of it or tired or making fun of the characters for any reason, because of the silly misunderstandings or anything. It really was fun to read the manga, and I really enjoyed it. I read this for the first time, I don't know, and it's not, I think it was 10 years ago perhaps, but I cannot really say. And after that, I have reread this manga a couple of times, and each time has been just as good. I seriously recommend it if you like BL manga and anime. So yeah, that's all for this one. I hope you enjoy my long rant and rambling about Junjou Romantica. As usual, you can find this episode not as detailed as the podcast was on the blog EachPage.org. But I surely hope that you will come back for more. And don't forget the season 2 of the podcast will be dedicated to manga and anime sometimes. And I really hope you enjoyed Read Readers. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, I'm Stella from EachPage, and this is EachPage Flow. Welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the podcast, or episode 13. This episode will be dedicated to Gaicho wa Maid-sama. Maid-sama, or The Class President is a Maid. This is a romantic comedy shoujo manga by Fujiwara Hiro-sensei, while the anime version was directed by Hiroaki Sakurai. And perhaps you have heard or seen the anime around, but today I'll focus mostly on the manga. Let's start with some facts about Maid-sama, which was first published in 2005 on the magazine Lala. This manga falls under comedy, but of course it has good life and romance because of the main characters and what they both go through. I'll get to that soon enough. The manga had 18 volumes when it ended in 2013. So, the characters are a major part of what makes this manga so interesting and what makes you keep going. If you know about it, you know where I'm going with this. Usui Takumi is one of the bad boys that are not really bad, but smart and kind that he does whatever he wants. And when he finds out that Ayusawa Misaki is working as a cute maid in a cafe, and this being so a harsh difference from her, let's say, rough attitude as a class president, then things take a turn, and of course these two become closer each day because of the secret they share. As for the side characters in the story, they are not as eye-catching as Misaki and Takumi. They're funny and are good for the plot, but not that impactful. Not the ones on the cafe or on the school. And I mean, anyone they meet, even on the other schools or events they have, they're there, but it's not as interesting as the main characters. The main thing of the story is the fact that Misaki doesn't want anyone at school to know that she worked as a maid, and that she has to act all cute at the cafe because that's how that type of jobs are like that, and she has to treat the customers as masters and be this persona that she's really completely against her personality, which is much rougher. And as a class president, everyone fears her because of how she treats them, and so she's afraid of how it all affects her at school. So it's even worse for her when Takumi finds out, but she doesn't know that he won't actually rat her out, as he wants the secret for himself. That type of thing, to have that relationship with Misaki and be the only one that knows this about her. But after everything goes on, Misaki tries to convince herself that she has no feelings for Takumi until, well, she faces the fact that she does. And of course, while living life in school and at the cafe, all sorts of festivals and events are happening in both places. But the thing that not so much surprises, but we find out is that Takumi is actually a rich kid, because why not? However, this becomes a problem later on the manga after Misaki accepts her feelings and she wants to be better in life. So no one is judging her, and because of where she came and what she does and everything. But in the anime, we don't see that part. The anime ends when Misaki accepts her feelings for Takumi and they kiss. That is not the case on the manga. But it goes beyond that, and we get to see then how a happy ending that feels more fulfilling than what we saw in the manga. But to be honest, if I continue saying what happens at the end, it'll be spoilers. And I want to leave you that part for you to read on the manga if you're interested in reading it. Despite the differences between manga and anime, there are actually some memorable moments that stood out more in the anime than the manga. But if you love this type of manga and anime, I mean romance, comedy, shoujo, and I have watched the anime a couple of times because it's fun. Then the most wild scene that you probably will find around is from the anime, and there's one where Misaki is wearing a bikini because they're having a cafe at the beach, and she's helping out. And Takumi doesn't want anyone to see her like that, dress her like that. So he gives her a little bruise on her back. So she'll have to change into something else because what she's wearing is way too revealing. And that's not the only time we see him showing his feelings, of course. At the beginning of the series, he kissed her before jumping off a building because a photo of them together where Misaki is dressed as a maid. Then he has it and it flew off, so he went after it after making a deal with Misaki. And those are some of the fun moments of the manga and the anime. But more so in the anime, if you watch it, then these are the ones that stay with you. And even when I read it years ago and watched the anime, even for the time, of course I watched the anime first and then read the manga because that's how it happened before in life. It's still a favorite. It's not on my top 5, to be honest, but I do recommend it because I think it's at this point sort of a classic in this genre. Compared to other manga that I've read, like Sakura or Horimiya, this one is a lower ranking for me. Some volumes had 4 stars, 3, and others had 5. But I cannot love it every time that I see something about it or remember something from it. And I mean, even if they have that ranking, and I mean, it's not Namaikizakari, which I love everything about it. And every single volume I loved completely. I don't think I ever gave it less than 5 stars. But that's a different story. Anyway, Kaisho wa Meisama is for those who want a quick read or a quick watch. The anime has only 26 episodes, so you definitely can watch it in a weekend. But the question is, have you watched Meisama or read the manga? You can share your opinions here or on social media. Please leave a comment if you read the manga or watched the anime. And if you're enjoying this season of the podcast, which is all anime and manga, then here's a teaser for you of what's coming next. I'll be talking about Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi as well, Nana and Horimiya. Those are some of the episodes that will be coming next. So be sure to check them out. And that's it for today's episode of EachPage Flow. Thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoyed this manga chat about Gaisho Wadmei-sama. Also, you can read the review on my blog, eachpage.org. And if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, dearies. See you on the next one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to EachPage Flow. I'm Sela, and this is episode 14, or episode 4 of season 2. Today's episode will be dedicated to Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi. It's one of those manga that I just keep coming back to, and today I'll share just why it's such a favorite of mine. Now, if you're new here to the podcast, it's all about books, manga, and anime, or at least season 2 has been dedicated to manga and anime. They have been with me since forever. I have either read them a long time ago or recently. And all of this captured me in some way. But of course, the podcast is full of passion for all these stories that we all love. For those who might not be as familiar with Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi, or the world's greatest first love, the case of Onodera Ritsu, it is a boys' love manga series, or yaoi, by Nakamura Shunjiku Sensei. It's basically a spin-off of Junjou Romantica, which some of you might know. And if you watch my previous podcast about this one, then you'll know more about Junjou. But I like Sekai-Ichi better than Junjou Romantica, to be honest, and I can't help it. The story mainly follows Onodera Ritsu, or Ritsu Onodera, if you like to say the name first and then the last name. I usually go back and forth, but I like to stick to the original language, which is Japanese, of course. And they use last name first. That is the end of my teaching lesson of today. Anyway, Onodera starts a new job at a publishing company, and he only finds out as he's literally there at the job, he cannot backtrack, he's already there, that his new boss is none other than his high school love, Takano Masame. So here starts the drama and the rekindling of old flames and the emotional roller coaster that comes with this. Richard, as one of his coworkers call him, gets on my nerves, to be honest. Because he doesn't want to fall in love for Takano again, but at such close offices and seeing him every day, not to mention that they live close by, it's all becomes rather difficult for Onodera, and Takano does not make it easy for him by constantly asking him out. And not just that, there are several plus 18 moments that I will not mention right now. All of this is highly specific on the manga, but not as much on the anime. Now, what makes Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi stand out, or what makes it so special? Well, for me, is the characters and the relationships. This isn't just a story about love, it's about struggles of those love and the challenges of the publishing world, which was really eye-opening for me. And if half of it is real, then it's a scary world to be in a publishing house over there. They basically sleep like once every 3 weeks or month, or at the end of their publishing cycle, how they called it. And it's really something to admire. All of the editing, and not just the editing team, but the manga authors and all of it is just, it really blows your mind to read this one. Also, this manga is about how the past shaped us,
and who we become, because Onodera is basically that. He is very bitter, um, because he thought that Takano had broken up with him. There was a misunderstanding 10 years ago or something like that. So Onodera, when he was in high school, he was a boy full of hope and love and everything. And then he became all bitter and grumbling, and I mean he blamed Takano for it, of course. But after they fixed that little misunderstanding, he's still like that. And it is really, I mean, Takano was like reverse in high school. And even though he was also disappointed by Onodera, uh, it all, so, I mean, they fixed their problem. I'm not gonna mention all of it because it's spoilers. But they fixed these problems, and yet Onodera is trying to deny his feelings and everything. But Takano insists on it constantly and is always there for him. Since he's his boss and not just that, he wants to help him and he wants to be with him again and date him again. Uh, but the truth is that, as with Junjou Romantica, we don't see that much on the anime. Yes, the main theme of it is there, but I like the manga goes beyond what the anime adaptation covers. So the anime is cool and everything, but the manga just gives you a bit of a wow factor to keep going volume after volume. There's more backstory, more character development, and more emotional weight in it. And like with Junjou Romantica, sorry, I'm comparing the two, but Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi has multiple stories and point of views, and the main one, Onodera and Takano, are not my favorite. I actually like Kisa and Ko better, and I guess that is similar a reason to why I prefer Hiroki and Nawaki from Junjou. And this is because Kisa Shota and Yukina Ko, they don't hold back, and it's heavy and fire and everything. And more so after Kisa faces his feelings. And even if he's constantly, almost annoyingly reflecting on the fact that he's years older than Yukina. But if I ignore that, I prefer this story much more than the main one. So there's another one I prefer less than these two, and he's the best friend Yoshino Shiaki and Hattori Yoshiyuki. And this is the one that I almost skip when I reread. As they have a friends to lovers thing going on and an author editor kind of thing. But I won't get into details about this too. So, of course, there are some personal favorite moments. I have to say there are some just scenes in Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi that just hit differently every time I read them. But one that I especially like is I think it's volume 2, chapter 4, if I'm not mistaken. That Takano keeps on system and talking to another about what is happening and to face the fact that he still has feelings for him now. But he also tells him that when they were young, if he forgot that Onodera was the one to confess first, but Takano already knew who he was, who Onodera was. And this is like a big shock of what's been happening in volume 1 and volume 2, because Onodera thought it was all one-sided and everything. But yes, there's also on volume 2, chapter 1, Onodera is, I mean, reminiscent about what happened before as well. What he said, what happened in high school, and particularly like this volume because it had these moments that is where you see. I mean, it's like an explanation of everything, and you keep getting more sucked into the story. So yes, I know I said that Takano are not my favorite, but I mean they're in the top along with Kisa and Go. This is one of my favorite yaoi mangas to read, to be honest. But I don't want to give many spoilers, and I wanted to keep this one shorter than the others. And so I think I have rambled on about all the main characters in the manga, and I will leave it up to here. I didn't mention the anime that much because there's more to the manga. There's no other reason. If you only watch the anime, I recommend that you read the manga for sure. You will be thankful of everything you learn, and I mean it does have funny moments as well as sad ones and infuriating ones, and it's a really good mix in there. So I do recommend it, of course. I recommend it 100%. And I also recommend that you read Junjou Romantica if you like Javi. And that's it, truly now. Thank you for joining me on this episode of EachPage Flow. And if you haven't picked up Sekai-Ichi Hatsukoi yet, I once more recommend it. And you can check out my written review of this manga on eachpage.org. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a fellow manga lover. Thank you, dearest, and see you on the next one.
Hello, dearies. Welcome to EachPage Flow. This is Stella, and today's episode number 15, or number 5 in season 2, will be dedicated to Namaikizakari, or Cheeky Brat. Manga that I really love, is my favorite. You can see in all of my blogs, pins, and everything that I post on social media just how much I love this one. It's a romance sports manga, and it became a favorite without me noticing it. I started reading this one maybe 3-4 years ago or more, and only recently finished the last chapters because they were not translated. And I mean, for me, it was a whirlwind of emotions, and it was really like, I don't know, saying goodbye to an old friend, but knowing that you can always come back and see them again. This is just how much I appreciate Namaikizakari. This is a series by Mitsuhashi Miyuki Sensei, and it's not just sports or romance. It's also about growth and perseverance, finding yourself. And if you haven't read it yet, there might be some spoilers coming here. And if you want to know more about it, stay by all means and enjoy this journey that I'm about to take you into. Now, Namaikizakari, also known as Cheeky Brat in English, it ran from November 2013 to December 2021 with a total of 23 volumes. It's got romance, good life, college life, and sports, and it's all wrapped up nicely in a shoujo genre. And every single volume of this manga is worth it. I mean, from the start, I could read it all in not entirety. Yuki and Naruse, the two main characters, are everything that you want to see in one of these manga. And even when Yuki starts of reserve, so to speak,
With Naruse's charm and persistence, you just want them to keep going, and you root for them. Their dynamic is, let's say, electrifying. And as I've been with this manga for so long, watching them grow and witnessing everything that happened between them, it was quite a magical experience. I can't remember why I picked up this one in the first place. It was years ago. But once I started reading, I couldn't stop. And I paused for like a year because not all the volumes were translated. And that's when I started to collect the paperbacks. I have up to volume 5, I think, and I haven't gotten the other ones. It's gonna be quite the collection for me, and the first one that I'm gonna have complete. And this year I picked it up again and finished it all. And those last few chapters, I was on a ride of nostalgia, sadness, happiness, all at once. I mean, the author really knew how to wrap up all of it. And Yuki graduated and accepting her feelings once more, although she had already. But the way she, like, oh, I really want to be with this person, it felt like a complete circle, like completing the whole thing. And seeing Naruse mature and still keeping that cheeky brat vibe while becoming a pro basketball player. I mean, it all awed me in how well executed it was. I know that's a bit analytical, clinical for a review, but that's how I felt. And I felt fulfilled as a reader. It's rare to see romance manga conclude so nicely, so beautifully. As for favorite moments and characters, there are quite a lot. And I have to mention some of the most standout moments. One of them is Fuka and Susan. And they came in later into the manga because Yuki met them when she entered college. But I love Fuka and how she stood by Suwa despite his past, despite how he was. And he didn't want to date her at first, but he realized just how well she complimented him. And there was also a few moments with Usami-kun. And I mean, he's Fuka's family, but she never really said that he was. And he was, like, at the end, introduced quite well. And even if she didn't want anyone to know that the young basketball player was connected to her, it's been obvious for chapters and chapters to know. And in the end, it was funny. And I like that part of the manga. But on the side of things, Chizuka, I mean, he was really in love with Yuki. And he couldn't, I don't know, let go of that, accepted even if he was in love with Naruse, Joe. And it wasn't until she cried and rejected him after that date that he finally accepted his feelings and moved on. And most of the time he wasn't my favorite character, but I still, I don't know, liked him there in the scene. and his nature of being like Naruto's childhood friend and rival. But you knew that, I mean, that's just who he was, like his teammate, as a basketball equal. And that was great. Right there, it was so nice to see the ending of these two being pro. But Naruto, it was iconic to see him evolve. Being carefree at first, stubborn brat, and then like a bit more mature in some aspects than Yuki, while keeping that vibe of youngster and a playful charm that I really like. It was awesome to see how their life puzzled piece by piece, and I loved how they ended up together. That's all from some of the moments and characters. I think I'm dragging this along a bit, but I don't care because I love this one and I love talking about it. The sports element in this manga is never quite big, and it doesn't take away from the romance. It's like part of the journey, and shows dream of becoming a basketball player and how they grow as a couple is all there nicely. I mean, one thing doesn't take from the other one. And the manga ran for 8 years, and it never felt like it dragged. Every chapter and moment, it was satisfying in the end, to be honest. I didn't feel like an open ending or anything. I mean, it was like, this is how it's gonna end, and it's okay how they work together in the end. I don't want to say the final chapter in case you want to read it, and I'll leave that for you to discover. Obviously, I gave 5 stars, and I recommend it all the time. If you love good romance with humor and a touch of sports, and you haven't read this one yet, then I'll say you should add it to your list for sure. Like I said, I don't have all of them, all the volumes, but once I have it, I'll for sure show you my collection, my 23 volumes. And I'll probably display it on my shelf. I don't care how long it takes, but I will have it. And that's all for this one. I hope you enjoyed this episode and my review of Namaikizakari. Thanks for sticking to the end of my rambling. And if you have read Chicken Brat, let me know what your thoughts were and who's your favorite character. And if you read it to the end, let me know as well. You can read the written version of this on EachPage.org. It's always there, and the original, which I have written a review for the first few volumes of the manga years ago, but the newest one is available to read now on the blog. And thank you really for sticking to the end, and don't forget to like, share, comment if you have read this one or if you haven't, and also subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel already. Thank you, dearies. See you on the next one. Hello, dearies. Welcome to EachPage Flow. I'm Sela, and this is episode 16, or episode 6 of season 2. It will be dedicated to Nana, anime and manga, because I cannot speak about one without the other one.
The manga had 21 volumes and it ran from May 2000 until May 2009. The anime had 47 episodes and it ran from April 2006 until March 2007. Nana has a lot of themes in it, but the main ones will be romance, yosei, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that one right, drama, more drama, music, and friendship, let's say, and a little bit of age gap as well. Actually, I could go on for quite a while with the themes and topics in this manga and anime. Heartbreak is also a big part of it. A little bit of gigolo, sacrifice, musical competition. Careful what you wish for. That would be for Hashi and Takumi. And the sort of toxic love that was going on there. Reunited love, best friends, platonic love, Yasu and Nana. It's all in there. And this is all the drama from the anime alone. If you go to the manga, it's pretty much the same, but after the 47 episodes of the anime, the manga fills up some of the gaps that we see in the anime. Full disclosure, this will be a spoiler if you haven't read or watched or never heard of Nana, and if you haven't watched the movies, the live action movies, which also cover mostly all of it, all of the story from the manga. For quite a while, the anime and manga are equally matched, except the manga tells you what happened for real between Nana and Hachi, and why she is always going like, "Nah, Nana, you remember when we first met and something, blah blah." She's always saying that phrase, and she's remembering what happened before. And the thing is that they no longer live together, and the fact is the manga tells you why exactly, and it wasn't because Hashiko chose Takumi over Nobu, or because she got herself pregnant, or she had a fight with Nana. No, it was basically Nana disappeared from the face of the earth after an awful car accident that happened in the manga story, and that is not fully shown on the anime. And Hashiko can say whatever she wants about the life with the guy that forced her to sleep with him. And whoever says it was not coercion force lying, because it was. It wasn't all the time, but this was a particular moment that he did tell her to stay put. Anyways, life with all his riches and everything, and she's like, this is Hashiko, and she's living not 100% because she goes and meets Nobu from time to time. Like, why would you do that? I mean, you could just break her off with the other guy if you're that unhappy. They have to go back to this other person. But in any case, that is the story. The funny thing is that I've watched the anime, the movies, the live action movies. Know a lot of the lyrics of the songs. Read the manga about 3 or more years after all of that. And at the time when I first watched the anime, I was hardcore into that. This was like over 10 years ago, maybe. I don't even want to check. But anyways, now that I have spoiled most of the story, I'll go back to the beginning and tell you everything that I can remember. Nana Komatsu and Nana Osaki are two young girls of 20. If I don't misremember that. And they meet on a train by chance on their way to Tokyo. One is a hype-up girl that talks a lot, and the other is a rock star girl. She has a guitar with her, and I think that's it. After they arrive, they go their separate ways, not knowing that, as fate will have it, the story will bring them together once more. Their second time is while looking for an apartment. And they're both like really shocked, obviously, and they're looking at the same place that is cheap. And turns out there's a 2-bedroom apartment, and like destiny, providence, whatever, or the author. The apartment number is 707, like their names, Nana, which is the Japanese for number 7. The Nana part, in case you didn't know. After that favorite time, they start living together, and Hachiko, or Hachi as Nana Osaki, the singer, calls the other Nana, the girl from a small town. I'll say Hachi. I've been saying it from the start, but I'll just say Hachi when it's Nana Komatsu. This Hachi meets all the members of Nana's rock band because, they live together, and she starts to meet a different type of people than the one she knew before. But Hachi went to Tokyo after her boyfriend, who will really learn to hate really quick, they break up, and he meets someone in college, and that's how she basically, let's say, turns her affections and her life and everything towards Nana. And that life, she gets, let's say, separated, but it's not related from what she knew before. And I'm saying that's bad, I'm just saying that's how it happened. After quite some events, Hachi meets someone. It's confusing, I know. A guy that she has been, let's say, idolizing, fangirling from another band, Trampsnet. And this is the band that Nana Osaki hates, basically, because it recruited, scouted, whatever the word is there, her boyfriend, Ren, and it made her want to go to the big city and make it herself after he left, even though she basically told him to leave. You see that in some flashbacks. It's a really back and forth from here, and the story has a lot of some backstory and what happened while they were living together, how their life were, how they became more friends. Ren goes back into Nana's life, and apparently there's each other's soulmates. And when Hachi meets her idol, it turns out that Takumi from Ren's band, he's a idiot. So it's basically okay for what she was for, because the way I see it, he likes the attention from Hachi, and they start going on and off whenever he's in town. They have this relationship. There's not really a relationship. It's not constant. But you know who's constant? And who's always there?
Nobu, Nana's friend and fan member. He falls hard for Hachi, and oh my god, it's so heartbreaking to see him how in love he is with her. And he tells her to, break his heart and be with him and everything. Oh my god, you really have to be. You really have to see it and read it, or whatever you want to feel that agony for Nobu. But in the end, Takumi and Hashi are like, I don't know, this toxic thing, and they don't end up together, Nobu and Hashi, in case you were wondering. There are too many storylines in this story. The story of the storyline, yes. Now, there's also other factors in other people's, like Yasu, Nana's band members or friend. He's friends and Nana friends from all the life. And he's in love with her, even though he never fully comes out and confesses. Everybody knows that he is, but he's like friends in love with Nana, so that's it. He's not gonna be married there. He's just the good friend of everyone. And then there's Reira. She's the lead singer of Dragons, and she gets involved with Blackstone's youngest member, Jin, who is 16 years old. Like, the age gap is there, clear as day, and whoever doesn't want to see it is, ignoring the fact. In any case, Junichi and Reira, they try to hide their relationship. Well, since this is a spoiler anyway, she's paying him for, his company. Well, that story is there. And the weirdest thing is like the story that is the least crazy, even though it is. It's like they come to each other despite their age gap. In the end, Nana and Hachi drift apart, as I said at the beginning. Because of Hashi's one decision, she moves out. And the major plot twist that makes Nana disappear from the radar, which I'm not gonna say because it's in the manga, and that will be the biggest spoiler ever. I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to. And it hurts to even think about it. Hachiko spends a lot of episodes talking to Nana in her mind, basically, and remembering their time together. So now, what can I say? Is the manga worth reading? Yes, of course. If you like all of this drama, all of these realistic relationships and romance, yes, it's worth reading. But yes, anyways, it's been a while, years, since I last watched or read the manga, but it's because of the choice they make, and I know everything so vividly. I know everything that happens, that when I think of watching it all again or reading it, it's just too much. And this is what I'm recommending. Yes. If you're wondering that, yes, of course. Is it so iconic as many claim? Yeah, I think it is. The story and the anime is something like you see to coming of age John struggles, love over distance, all lovers reconnecting, new friends, meeting your idols. It's like everything is in there. His main struggle, they struggle with so many emotions that it can be exhausting to watch, to be honest. And yet, you keep doing it because you have to know what's gonna happen next. It's still surprising that Ashley made so many wrong decisions in her life. And actually mind-blowing how much of an airhead she is at times. But then again, it wouldn't be as without any of it. I mean, it's about her trying to find love and Nana trying to make it as a star, basically. There, the end. That's it. All the manga and anime. So good. Rating, I wouldn't give it 5 stars, even though I've been talking about this for I don't know how long. And you know everything that happens there. But I mean, some episodes or some volumes from the manga are 5 stars, but the rest would be a 4 for me. Just because I don't agree with everything that happens there. And it's not an easy 5. And so if it's not an easy one, then I'm going to give 4. That's been my logic lately. Maybe I would have given it 5 years ago, the first time that I watched it or that I read the manga, but not today. Today I'm a different person and I definitely give it 4 and some 5 depending on what happens in it. And that's pretty much it for this one. I could go on and I could keep going about every single detail from the manga and anime about Nana and Hachiko, but I think I have made my point clear. I do have more spoilers on the blog on EachPage.org. I don't have a full official review there because it was so many years ago since I read the manga there. At the moment, I didn't do the review, and well, here I am doing it here on the podcast. But you can go to eachpage.org and see more spoilers about the manga and the anime. It's all there. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for coming back and listening to my ranting and rambling about Nana. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.
Hello dears, welcome to Each Page Flow. I'm Sela, and this is episode 17, or episode 7 of season 2. It will be dedicated to Horimiya. Horimiya is a manga and anime, but the original was a web series and an OVA by Hero. The manga was adapted by Daisuke Hagiwasa, or something like that. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. He did the manga under supervision by Hiro, which was the original author. The manga had 16 volumes or so, 17, and there was some that had more. And it was available from 2011 to 2021. I first watched the anime, which is 13 episodes, and it was aired in 2021. This anime and manga is high school life, young adult, romance, and some way. But one of the most surprising parts is that it's shonen, which is mostly
targeting young men, and instead of shoujo, which is for young women. So this is one of the examples that it doesn't matter the main demographic is not targeting, because I mean, you can watch it and still like it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Horimiya, so saying it was first a webcomic or web series, which was self-published by the author by hero on their site, and then later it got serialized into a manga, and then the anime in 2021. But today I'm gonna focus on the manga and anime, which is what I have seen since I discovered this one in like 2023, I think. It wasn't last year, so I don't really remember. I just know that I was a recommendation on Crunchyroll for Horimiya, and I was like, it sounds interesting. So I hit play and watched the whole 13 episodes at once. I mean, like, I really binge watched this one. The main story follows Hori-san, or Hori Kyoko, a girl in high school that tries to hide her personal life, but not in an active way. Just like she doesn't want people in high school to know her private business. And when she's there in school, she wears makeup and it's all cute, at least to the eyes of her peers, just to speak. And but when she's at home, she wears a bun and babysits her little brother, cooked and everything, because her parents work, and she like take care of the house. And Miyamura, or Miyamura Izumi, and he's like this emo-looking boy who doesn't talk much with others, and after a small incident, ends up meeting Hori's brother, Sota, and he takes him home because he got into a tiny accident with a dog, and it's like, oh my god, is this the guy that goes to school with me? And he's like, Hori, yes, it's me, because he doesn't look nothing like what he's in school. And this is one of the major things visually that you can see online, like when he's with glasses and long hair on his face at school, but outside of it, he's nothing like that. He's more like, I'm gonna show you here. His hair is pulled back, and he has piercings all over and everything. It's like a completely different look. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that his personality and how he is. Everyone thinks that he is like otaku and into everything like anime, manga, and he says that he is, but not in that super obsessive way. And after this small happenstance, they meet outside of school and start hanging out like that. And of course, Sota, Hori's little brother, does on Miyamura and calls him Oni-chan and tells him to always go visit and everything. And Hori starts to see him more and talk to him, get to know him. And yeah, it's like this small thing created a whole domino effect into Miyamura's life, and how it changed his, not so much his personality, but more like his way of life at school, because he was always alone, and that came from constant bullying since he was a kid. And since he was in middle school, because nobody wanted to talk to him, nobody wants to be related to him. And yeah, that was how he became like this. Like, and he went into a jail and didn't want to like talk to anybody, or more like he wanted to keep it to himself. And he thought it would be the same in high school. But after Hori like included him, because she's popular, there's no other way to spin that like she is. And she has friends, Yuki and Toru, which are like her friends that are always with her. Also start talking more with Miyamura. And you discover that Toru is in love with Hori, and he gets totally rejected by her because he confesses as soon as he sees the Miyamura is always with her and always talking to her. And after all of this, I mean, it is school life, so everything happens at school or at Hori-san's house, but it falls and revolves around that, and how they, I don't want to say many things because that is spoiler, and most of what I had to say being saying is in the first episode, the first volume of the manga and the anime. But you get to meet everyone, and it's like they start including these two, and it's about basically what you see in the first episode of the anime is what you get in the rest of half of the 13 episodes. Keep saying 12 because it's usually, if it's a short one, is 12 episodes, but this one is 13 for season 1. I haven't spoken about season 2 because it's not really a season 2 of the anime. It's actually like the missing parts is called, and it's about all the little pieces that they didn't put on season 1, but they are important in the manga because it's what keeps you reading. Anyways, so in season 1, the whole story of how Hori and Miyamura fall in love, and how they try to hide how they look outside of school, and they both like keeping their secret from the rest of their friends until they slowly find out, except for Hori, which they really don't go too deep into that. And more about Miyamura hiding his piercings and his tattoos because he has a lot of them. And then hang out with Senkoku, who is the class president, and his girlfriend Ajasaki, and his other friend and the Sakura, and there's another friend Yurachu, or who no sé, it's not so much on scene because he's in another class. But I mean, all of them are like super inclusive, and they always hang out at school, and all of this. It becomes like, I'm rambling, I know. It becomes a thing at school that they always hang out, and that they like everyone likes everyone in this small group because like Hori likes Miyamura, Miyamura likes Hori, but Toru likes Hori for like half of the episodes, and then Yuki start liking Toru, and then Sakura meets Toru in life as well, and then you want to know more about Toru and Yuki because they start to hang out more, and so they do, and it's like this is the story, the other side story that you really want to see. And yeah, that's basically all spoilers. And yeah, I should have put a warning about that one. Um, Eventually, Miyamura does confess that he likes um Hori-san, and yes, they start dating. And of course, that brings out even more uh, little moments that happen. And I'm not gonna say all of it because that is spoiler. And I want you to watch the anime because it's awesome. If you haven't watched it, you should really watch it. Um, yeah, I mean there are main scenes that I really enjoy. The first episode, of course, how Hori starts to see Miyamura in a different light after he hangs out with her more and more. Um, she realizes how this guy is totally cool and he's not really good at school, but they start studying together and hanging out a lot. And Hori tells him that she likes all these scary movies and there's always watching something, and then Sota is not even at the house and they just hang out more alone, and that's how they eventually like spend more time together alone. And another one that I really like, and when we meet Hori-san's father, Kyusuke, because like this totally deal and pardon my language. Um, yeah, I mean, he's a young one, and he's younger than her mother, and he's never there, and because he works in this on this close location, then we knows where he works. Um, and Hori calls him by his name, and it's like a really strange relationship they have, but in the end, they always treat Kyosuke like he's a stranger and always asking him, why are you still here? When are you going back to work? It's a really funny show. I mean, I just remember everything that happens in it, and I cannot recommend it enough. Um, yeah, for the main characters, or his parents, and Sota, that's the whole of the Hoyo family. There are four of them. And the funny thing is that they just get Hori's new mother, which name I do not remember in this moment. Um, they they went to high school with Sengoku's parents, so they knew each other the whole time. And Sengoku is the class president. And when they started high school, he told Hori to treat him better because she was like always treating him like a lucky when they were kids. And he told her to go easier on him. Sorry. And yeah, that's that part. Um, Ayasaki Raimi, who is Sengoku's girlfriend, she is like this super cute girl that every guy wants to date, and because of that, she felt like everyone was like after her. This is all details. They're a little more in depth in the manga. It's not a big difference between manga and anime, but yeah. Nagasaki falls for Sengoku because they start bonding over books and hanging out more. And they start dating. I think they've been dating since the middle school, perhaps, or since the year high school started. It's not really that all that clear.
I have probably on the web series or on the OVA, but I haven't watched the OVA or haven't read the web series, so I cannot say for sure. And after a small incident, Sakura, Ayasaki's friend, she bumps into Toru and they start talking more and like that's the perhaps the silliest one of them all, how she falls for him. But she does, and she doesn't confess, as far as I remember. And they end up, you know, not being together. And more so when Yuki and Toru start hanging out more because Hori is dating Miyamura. And I'm saying everything that happens in this thing, this turned into a full spoiler, but still. When Yuki and Hori start Toru and Yuki started hanging out more. And they hang out at his house because apparently he's not a rich kid per se, but sort of. And it's like it's obvious that they're hanging out and eventually dating, but they're not actually dating. So you are left hanging with a part with Toru and Yuki. Yeah, I mean the anime is pretty freaking straightforward, and you really do enjoy following the dynamics of them all. And when I finished it, I was really curious to see if the manga was the same, and it was. And then after reading the manga online, I decided that I had to make collection, and that's how I started to buy all of the volumes. I only have 3 right now, I believe. There's been a lot of manga buying last year, so I cannot remember exactly. Yeah, they're great. I mean, I was surprised at how much I like them, even if they're so simple. Because I have seen online that people are like, "Do you really like this?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is. It's a pretty good story, and you can relate with some of the characters, and it's really, I don't say it's a masterpiece, but pretty freaking close, and you can watch it without getting bored of it. If you read the manga, you start to like, wow, this is really something easy to fall into the flow of this manga, and I really really like it. That's obvious for how long I've been speaking about this one. It's been a while since I did this. I'm almost done because I know I've been talking about everything that happens in it, but this is how much I liked it. You can see that by going into the blog and seeing all the photos and videos I have here on YouTube and Instagram, and some of the edits that I have on TikTok as well. Yeah, do I recommend it? Obviously, I do. If you like high school drama and if you like young adult romance, because nothing's so specific in this one. They it's it's a controversy, but not really, about whether or not they end up together in the end, and if they kiss and if they sleep together, and all of the answer to all of that is yes. And neither the anime nor the manga are just on screen stuff. So you can watch it and be like, this really happened or didn't that happen? And yeah, I mean, I cannot recommend it enough. I gave it 5 stars.
and to the manga and to the anime. And I always go back to it since I first watched the anime. And yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening to it. And if you'd like to know more spoilers or see my written review of Horimiya, you can on the blog EachPage.org. And thank you for listening to my rambling about this one. I really enjoyed talking about it. And you can leave a comment or let me know on a DM on social media, on Instagram or on the blog. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more. The last episode will be dedicated to a really good one, and I hope you don't miss it. And that's really it for Horimiya. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Each Page Flow. And thank you again for watching and for listening to me rambling about yet another manga and anime all combined into one. Thank you, dearies. See you on the next one. Hello, dearies. Welcome to Each Page Flow. I'm Sela, and this is episode 18 of the podcast, or episode 8 of season 2. It will be dedicated to fruit baskets, or furuma, as many will know it. Fruit basket. I only heard about it last year or 2023, I think, at the end of it. It was not on my radar, but I suddenly got a recommendation like Horimiya about this one, and it was so much fun to read only the description. Like, this is fantasy, Chinese, zodiac, and yeah, I was basically hooked on the first 2 lines of it. But let's talk about it. Fruit Basket is a manga and an anime by Natsuki Takaya Sensei. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But yeah. And the manga has 136 chapters, and it was published in 1998. It's quite old. It reminded me the first chapters, the first volumes. It reminded me of Sakura CardCaptor, or CardCaptor Sakura, as you prefer to call it. Yeah, and the manga ended in 2006. The anime had 3 seasons, 63 episodes, and 2 extra ones. They're like the prelude, like it's a sort of OPA, but it's what happened before with the parents of the main character. The anime aired in 2019 until June 2021, and there's an anime before that from 2001 that I'm gonna ignore because it basically has nothing to do with the story of Fruit Basket. It's set for the Chinese zodiac element and with a fantasy and a bit of a story, but like the end of it and everything that leads to the end of it, it really doesn't match of the story of Fruit Basket. I'm gonna do a combo between manga and anime because I really enjoy both. I watched the anime and then I immediately went into the manga because it was so much fun to read. Yeah. There is a 2015 manga collector's edition which I really like to have. I might buy that instead of buying the originals, which is a little more difficult to get. The collector's edition has 12 volumes, and the genres of the manga
And the anime, sort of as well, is slice of life, romantic comedy, supernatural, of course, drama, and heart-throbbing, sometimes heartbreaking, a little bit of toxic love, depending on some of the characters. I'm gonna talk about that later on. But what is it really about? Furuba. I call it Furuba most of the time because it's easier and it's fun to call it like that. It's an abbreviation, Japanese, of the name, and English as well. Fruit basket gets shortened to Furuba. Anyways, this story is about Honda Toru, an orphan girl who meets Yuki, Kyo, and Chigure Soma, while she's in a forest close to where they live, or basically in their state. And soon she learns the family secret, which is that they have a curse and they have a life full of mystery. That's all basically on the description. I haven't said anything that isn't like spoiler. But I shall enter spoiler mode now. And if you haven't read or watched the anime, I suggest that you skip to the end of this and hear all the good things about it. But if you want to hear about it, everything spoiler, and you don't mind knowing what the story is about, then keep listening. Toru starts living with these three Soma people in a house near the woods because she couldn't live anymore with her family. And so she met them and they discovered that she have a house. So they took her in. And while she's living there, she starts to get to know them better and discovers that some of the members of the Soma family have a big secret, and is that they can change into the Chinese zodiac. Animals is not by choice either, it's a curse. This happens only when they are hot by the opposite sex. So it would be, if it's a female, it would be a male hugging them. If it's a male, like Chigure, Kyo, or Yuki, then it would be, in this case, Toru. That's how she finds out about it. Okay, so at the beginning of the story, so I was saying, Toru begins to meet each member of the family, more so the 12 members of the Chinese zodiac, the ones that are cursed, and they meet in various circumstances and for various reasons. But the adults, like Chigure Sensei, Gure Nisan, he has multiple names by each younger member of the family. He looks after Kyo and Yuki in their house in the woods. And actually it's by his own choice that he lives there and his own personal selfish reasons. Because he used to live in the main state of the Soma, but they moved to this little cabin. And there, Toru also meets Hattori and Ajame, who are also adults. I'm gonna say they are in their 20s, mid-20s, around that. And they are working adults. Chigure, for example, is a writer. And you can think, I mean, I sort of thought of Akihiko from Junjou Romantica.
because he came with a wife and he also had some books that were more adult. But yes, he's a successful writer, or similar to it, not as famous as Akihiko. But yeah, Hattori Soma is a doctor, and Ayame, Yuki's older brother, is a clothes designer, fashion designer, if you want to really put a label on him. Yeah, that's the three main ones. I named them because they were so cool. I mean, they're like adults and they know what's what with the curse and know more about it than the younger members of the family. And then there's Kureno Soma. My god, my heart is always like one of the most heartbreaking stories on the whole thing. Yeah, my heart breaks for him every time. He's a little younger than the main three characters. Well, not the main three characters. He's older than Toru, Yuki, and Kyo. I meant Hattori, Shigure, and Ayame. He's younger than them. But he didn't get many choices about the world and enjoying life. He stayed in the family state with one of the most perhaps important characters in the whole thing, with Akito or Akito, one's the main characters, and one's the character that you soon start to loathe. But when you understand the backstory of the world, you really say like, wow, understandable. Perhaps it is a difference too. But anyways, I'm gonna talk a little more about that later on the podcast. I don't want to say everything right now. Yeah. So the curse is a bit different for Akito, and Toru also meets with Akito and tries to understand further why everyone like circulates around Akito. I'm sorry, my tongue is not properly pronouncing that. But anyways, back to Toru. She experiences a sort of kindness and friendliness from all the Soma. And when she meets the younger part of the family, the teenagers like her and want to be friends with her because she's also a very kind person and she doesn't judge or doesn't care that they have a curse, like many others who have discovered the secret of the Soma and they like put a wall between them, but not Toru. And that's why perhaps she is like, they are more drawn to her and they start to form all these bonds and try to make friends with her, which Akito doesn't like. And she wants to help with the curse because they tell her that it's a curse and they want to get rid of it. And perhaps not too many words, but it's like heartbreaking to see that they want to move forward and try to break it, essentially. So who are the younger part of the story? We have the youngest, which are Kisa and Hiro-chan, who, I mean, Hiro reminds me a lot of Shaoran from CardCaptor Sakura because of his personality and how he is how protective of Kisan. And Then we have Kagura. I'm not gonna say all of the Chinese zodiac animals. You can watch the anime or read the manga, and I'm sure you're gonna discover exactly who they are before they actually say it. And because it's fun to guess who they are. And that is part also of the story, that Toru discovering who they are in the zodiac. And then we have the ones that are a little older, more Toru's age, perhaps a few years younger, 1 or 2. And we get to meet Momoji, Hatsuharu, or Haru, and Isuzu, or Rin, as they call her. These are like the main ones, and they will see the impulse decisions and try to trying to, how can I say this, live their life as best they can, even with the curse, because it's quite difficult for them. I almost forgot about Ritsu. Sorry about that. I think with that I have mentioned all of them. I think I mentioned all of them. In any case, the story is really cool, and I just love rewatching it. I think I rewatched it after the first time, like a month later or 2, and that was after reading the manga. I immediately went again to the whole anime, and it was recently over. Yes, I think this was 2 years ago, because it was 2019. And the 2019 version is like, they say, is a remake from the other one, but it's really not, because this is completely different, and the story actually follows the manga and what happens there. Now, for you to understand more about it, some of my favorite moments are perhaps the ones with Kureno and Arisa. Arisa is Toru's friend. And here are more spoilers. I'm sorry, I cannot help them. Kureno is trying to live his life and trying to get out of the soulmate state. But we finally see what is it that keeps him going back. And we start to understand truly how the curse works. And why Akito has so much power over all of them, other than knowing the main story of how it came to be. And I think Kureno allows us to know more about it, because he likes Arisa, but he cannot be with her. So he goes back to the family estate, and he works there. I cannot really tell you. I'm gonna say anything that Akito wants, that's what he does, what Kureno does. But yeah, he's, even though he doesn't come up that much on the anime or in the manga, his character arc story is super intense and heartbreaking. I think most of my favorite moments are from season 3. But Yuki as a class president, spoiler again. And yeah, the people that he meets there in the council, and how they treat him, and the friends that he makes there outside of being friends with Toru, or being on the lookout about his family, because he lives in the family estate and he wanted to be basically left alone. But somehow he ended up living with Kyo, and Yuki and Kyo have this
explosive relationship that they hate each other, but they really don't. It's like this major misunderstanding of their personalities. And Kyo is not exactly part of the zodiac, but he's like outside of it. Like if there was an extra animal, it would be Kyo. And that leads to also being part of the curse and why they want to get rid of it. Because everyone is like they alienate Kyo for most of the time, and Toru sees that, and that also drives her to try to break the curse so that he can be free. And for the first season, I'm talking about the anime because I remember more clearly than the manga, but this basically both are the same. For the first part of the story, Toru and Yuki become close, and Yuki thinks that he likes her, but in the end he realizes that he doesn't. And like step back from that relationship, and they're like really good friends. But that's the case with Kyo and Toru, who are always talking and who are always hanging out, even though they don't actually say their feelings. One of my favorite moments is Toru and Kyo talking at the beach and on a school trip. This is more on the manga. You really see the connection between them and how it's starting to evolve. And another, and I'm talking about all the favorite moves, but also saying about the story. Chigure and Hattori interactions are so fun to watch. And you see a bit of flashbacks into the life of Shigure and Hattori when they were younger, and also start to understand why and how the curse affects them. Another one is Haru and Isuzu. Like, this is basically the main love story of the whole thing, and you really root for them and don't want Akito to meddle in that, but Akito does end up meddling in that and nearly killing Isuzu. Yeah, like literally, yeah, that's what I said. I said what I said. Yeah. What else? There are also the heartbreaking, amazing, yet there's still amazing moments. There's all the pain and the fighting. That had me with the manga in my hands and or the screen at the enemy screaming and saying, "Oh my god, what is happening here?" When Yuki realizes his feelings for Toru, his real feelings actually, and why he confused them, and why he was, I mean, it says like he didn't like her, but he actually did. And perhaps that transformed from liking her as a person to like a potential partner to a friendship. It changed, in my view, and that was what it was for me. But yeah, that only gives room for Yuki to be more protective of Toru when they are closer, when they are more like close friends. Another moment that really had me almost tearing up is Gil at the end of a cliff and at the river with Toru, and when she finally understands how the curse affects him differently from the other members of the Chinese Zodiac, which I'm not gonna say because it really is something you should watch or see on the manga. And if you have watched or read the manga, then you know what I'm talking about. It is full of story, this one. And I really enjoy it. I've been talking about it for quite a while, so yeah. And there's also Isuzu, and her whole character arc is amazing, and mostly because she's the one that wants the curse broken as fast as it can be done, and his story with Haru, and the moments when she's talking with Jure about the curse or about how way to break it. And Jure has his own, as I said, selfish reasons to breaking it, and he's basically hurt. And he left the family estate because he was upset with Akito because Akito shows Kureno not chosen particularly, but like Akito wanted to be with all of them because couldn't live without any of them. It's really a toxic thing that Akito does, because Akito is like the god of all of the Chinese zodiac animals, at the top of them, and like bringing them all together to the curse. And this curse is always repeating in the Sama family. It's not like it's a recent thing, but we get to meet the most recent ones stuck in it. There's also Hattori's. I'm thinking about all of the characters, so there are so many, and I don't know how they managed to do it all in 3 seasons, but yeah, that's why I read the manga, because there's a little bit more meat to it in there. Hattori's first love had to be, let's say, erased, but she was like, her memories were erased. Yeah, that was rough to see. And to say like, wow, he really had to give her up because Akito was super jealous. And then this Momiji's character arc is incredibly painful to watch because he is also one that wants to break it because his parents left him. And his mother couldn't take it that he was a Chinese zodiac member, and every time she hugged him, obviously he turned, and that was like super painful. And I don't understand why this mother did not love his child, but okay, because mommy is super adorable and super lovable. But yeah, he suffers a lot through the entire anime, and we want that curse broken because of him mostly. Yeah. Now, the toxic love story in here would be Shigure and Akito, and it's filled with angst and heart-throbbing moments, and you don't want to accept that in the end they are meant to be together. And by season 3 you're like, oh my god, they deserve to be together. Yeah, that's why today is like the whole time trying to break the curse, trying to bring Toru into the family so Akito will be jealous more and more, and see if that will bring a whole, how can I say, an end to the world. Like, he saw that Toru could actually accomplish this, and he fed everyone in her direction, and he led Toru into being with Yuki, being with Kyo, and being there in family so Akito could see all of this, and Akito will feel a bit more Olone would go to Chigure. He didn't care about any of it. All he wanted was the curse broken so he could be remarried. It's really toxic when you watch it. And what you feel. Probably watch it. But in the end, you actually want to see how they will end up together, which they do. Spoiler alert, they do. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the whole story. I talked a lot about it. I think I talked sufficiently about this manga and anime. I really enjoy Furuwa. It became really a favorite of mine. I know I say that a lot, but they all have their own moments. Since I started this season with CardCaptor Sakura, it was super fun to talk about all the anime and all the manga that I enjoyed. And this is the last episode of this season. I will come back with season 3 of the podcast, so don't miss it. It will be about books once more, sequels and prequels as well, that I have enjoyed, of course. I don't usually talk about anything that I don't like. If anything deserves a 1-star, I don't think I'll be talking about it on the podcast. But in any case, going back to Furuwa, do I recommend it? Yes. How many stars did I give it? 5 to the anime and to the manga. And if you want to get really into, if you were talking 5 or 5, yes. But it would be like 10 out of 5 because it's amazing. And you should really, really watch it. If you like fantasy drama, good life, romance, and everything in between, that's right up anyone's alley right there. And yeah, that's all from me. And this one took a long turn of me talking about all of the characters. There's a lot going on there. I know I didn't say all the main things, but that's the fun of watching the anime and reading the manga. I don't have the manga on my hands, but I am planning on getting it. Yeah, and I'll probably get it soon. And if I do, of course, I will show it up here. The first one, the first volume of the collector's edition, as I mentioned. If you can read it in English, I don't know if it's Spanish, I think it is, but I don't know if the collector's edition it is. I have seen the English one, that's the one that I read. And the one that is always popping up in my recommendations to buy when I'm buying something that comes up real quick. And that's it from me. Thank you for coming back to the podcast and for listening to me ranting about yet another manga and anime that I really enjoy. Furuwa is amazing and you should definitely read it. Thank you, dearest. Of course, don't forget that you can read this and everything about it on EachPage.org. I have a review for the manga, I have a review for the anime, and I also speak about the 2001 anime, which lasts 20 something episodes, and I really didn't like it, so that's why I didn't speak about it, because wow, it was incredibly different from the main story. I was in shock. But yep, that's it from me. Thank you. Don't miss out on the next season of the podcast. And remember, you can listen to the rest of season 2 here on the channel. Thank you, dearies. See you on the next one.